Hi friends, my name is Host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People, and today I'm making a video called Amphetamines and Cognitive Functions, or Amphetamines and Personality Type, might be called. Jessica left a comment 3 hours ago. You seem different in this video. This was a comment on a video I made about 5 years ago. My med focal end makes my expert intuition more pronounced as well. It made me think I was a fake ENTP once I realized this because I haven't heard of anyone else having this experience. Are you still taking medication? I'm struggling to determine whether I should continue. I'm a lot less anxious than I was prior to my baseline. I'm a lot less anxious than was my baseline prior to getting diagnosed. But I don't know. It's funny. This lady, Jessica, you write like an NTP, although in the process of getting one thing right, you ended up with a misplaced modifier here. So it's actually your baseline that was getting diagnosed, not you. Anyway, sorry to be pedantic. Compared to before, my sense of time feels inverted now. Hours feel longer and minutes finally pass at a reasonable rate, while the weeks fly by like they're nothing. I let my expert intuition take over my entire day, and even though it feels like the right thing to be doing, I can't shake the feeling that I'm in quicksand. Do you still feel the same way you did 5 years ago about expert intuition Adderall? No, I definitely don't feel the same as I did 5 years ago. I don't recall exactly what I did think 5 years ago, but I definitely feel differently about it now. I know I was a lot more enthusiastic about it then than I am now. I take less now, and in some sense I get less results from it as well. But let's look at this other document or box here that I have. Amphetamines and functions. Extroverted intuition versus extroverted sensing. So what I'm doing now is extrovertedly intuiting on top of a skeleton that required me to extrovertedly sense. So in other words, if I just started this video by reading Jessica's comment and just start talking and replying, I would simply be taking the most native and natural way for me to do things, which is I'll just figure it out as I go. The extroverted sensing I put in was to organize it like this so that I could have this concrete thing to reference, this outline here that both limited me and made sure that my extroverted intuition didn't violate the requirements or burdens of introverted intuition, which I need to resonate with other people in the outside world as worth watching or meaningfully conveying information. And that's why I put in the time to set it up a little bit ahead of time. Now, here's some observed impacts I've seen on non-doing types. That's everybody but ESTP, ENTP, ENFP, and ESFP. Okay? But the ones I want to specify or talk about are the ones that I've observed the most, probably, which are ISFJs and INFJs. So with ISFJs, I found that they want to chat a great deal. And they're very, very chatty on speed. This is true, I think, of Alpha Quadra in general. Beta Quadra can be as chatty as Alpha Quadra is interesting. INFJs, however, I've seen are much more prone to doing things, either creative things, or like Rachel went on a walk. I mean, she went on a walk to the mall, or she'll go try on a bunch of different clothes inside to see which one looks best. I don't know. She seems generally more active and dewy when, and I'll get her on camera here in a second, when she's on amphetamines. But the INFJ that I have the most experience watching on amphetamines is my friend, and he was very active creatively when he was on amphetamines, but he also was subject to the kind of excesses that typify people's horror stories about amphetamines. Now, in this case, I'm talking about illegal amphetamines. These days, and for a long time now, I've been taking Adderall, which is a legal prescribed amphetamine, and it's a lot less hardcore, obviously. But it's a matter of scale rather than fundamental difference, basically. In other words, if you're taking Adderall or something like that, it's not fundamentally that different from something like methamphetamine. It's just methamphetamine is going to ramp up the severity of the the tweak substantially, and you're going to be up for longer. And there are other factors that make it a lot more difficult to control. But fundamentally, the only difference chemically is that methamphetamine is methylated, whereas Adderall is not methylated. And if you want to look up how that impacts your brain chemistry and stuff, go for it. I'm no expert on that kind of thing. I've also had plenty of opportunity to note the impacts on ESTPs, both recreationally and in my own daughter, who's been prescribed this stuff for quite a while now. The thing is, she almost never takes it. She doesn't like the way it makes her feel, and she only takes it when she has to do things like clean her room, right? So that would tell me that for her, it's maximizing her dominant function, but in conjunction with her fifth. So note how my extroverted sensing, what I had to do here ahead of time, is maximizing my dominant function, but in conjunction with my fifth, making sure that what I'm saying has meaning and is understandable as a single packaged an idea of some sort, rather than just random tangents and nonsense. So ESTPs I've seen be very enthusiastic about amphetamines. I've known a couple of ESTPs who had a problem with methamphetamine or an enthusiasm for it, let's say. And they handle it better than most types, but ultimately you can't sustain that. You just can't really sustain that drug. And then I've seen my daughter, who doesn't really have the same addictive qualities, and she's nevertheless definitely an ESTP. And I think that she just doesn't like the way that physically it makes her feel. I think it gives her a headache, or I don't know. Have you heard more specifics on to what she doesn't like about it? But she rarely takes it. So now I'd like to turn the camera over to Rachel and get Rachel's thoughts on how it impacts me and how it impacts her, especially as links with any kind of cognitive function stuff.
Hello. So I haven't thought about it in cognitive function stack sense, but I would definitely say that I can see what you were saying about the kind of triggering the first slot and the fifth, because I find myself talking more about metaphysical things. I definitely I don't feel relaxed on it. Like, I wouldn't, like, napping before, I was tired and still I felt like I wanted to, like, do something. And, like, I was out here for, like, a good, like, probably 20 minutes, like, back and forth, being like, should I take a walk? Should I not take a walk?
Whereas in contrast, during that same time, I didn't really feel like I was on any amphetamines until after I took a nap, which is something I've also heard from other doing types, ESTPs specifically, that it doesn't really kick in until after you take a nap. But I don't think you experienced that, really.
No. And if anything, if I take it, like, say, like, 3 days in a row, I know for sure the increase of my looking stuff up. So I tend to like to look up, occult metaphysical things. So tarot is one of them. I do look up stones once in a while.
Note that's third slot mostly for her, TI. Getting information is TI.
It increases.
And receiving information decreases accordingly. So over time, maybe there's a shift from the first slot to the third slot weighting. Perhaps that's how I get as well. Less about extroverted intuition and more about extroverted feeling as the month goes on and I get more fussy.
Yeah, true. You've mentioned the whackage, and I haven't seen it in Actually, I haven't seen it in like maybe 4 months. It's been a while.
I gotten really thwacked
Blacked
out.
out, yeah. Because like in me also, I also get if I do if I take Adderall, um, say like 30 milligrams, um, I am going to be irritable. Like I when I was first taking it, I wasn't on medications for my bipolar too, so I just like dive deep into like different kind of topics, like phenomenons with pain healing um, and your mind. I look up, like I said, tarot. Like I said, like stones. I'll look up astrology. I'll just dive deep into stuff and like try to like correct it for some reason. Like I really, really like it's like so. I guess it brings out the one more in me. In my tri type, I'm 741, and I think it brings out more of the one in me.
Okay, well, I would call that in general a 1-3 weighting. So it's like you might say, well, but astrology is not very TI sound, Eric. Well, that's again not understanding TI exactly. TI is making a consistency distinction calculus about what it's thinking about. So for her, it's in the third slot. It's selfish. She uses TI to parse out what she wants, and then where she gets to the part where she doesn't want to parse with TI anymore, she doesn't. She uses NI, what she knows to be true.
Yeah.
So, and specifically what she knows to be true outside of herself. Somebody might say, well, how can you call NI an objective knowledge function if it correlates with belief in things like conspiracies and astrology? Because it's a belief that things outside of the self are determining things, right? It's a belief in understanding the world and the way of the world and being able to intuit what's really going on here.
Yeah.
So that's why it's, in that regard, objective. It's not presuming one's own experience is central to the truth. So now I want to talk about my thoughts on my impacts on how amphetamines have impacted me over time. So I started a long time ago in the early 2000s, 2001. I was a methamphetamine addict for a while, and then I quit that, and then for a long time I didn't do any amphetamines. I was a drunk, and I smoked weed, and then I quit drinking. Or actually, then I got prescribed Adderall at some point. First I got prescribed Concerta, then I sort of walked the doctor up to Adderall. And I am been on the same prescription now for years, which is two 15 milligram Adderall pills a day, instant release, and generic for it, So the thing is, the first thing that happened was I quit drinking not that long after I started taking Adderall because I couldn't sustain being drunk while taking Adderall. In other words, I'd be drunk and awake and making bad decisions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can cover up some of the drinking with some Adderall, and so before you know it, you've got a serious problem going on. Let me also say that after I quit drinking, I didn't stop taking Adderall when I quit drinking, but I did stop taking it when I was in China. So then I had a few months of being completely sober in China. I come back from that, I resume taking my Adderall and smoking weed, but I don't start drinking again. So that's been the state of affairs the last 7 years or so. I've been somebody who's mostly just taken my prescribed Adderall and smoked weed. Now, it's worth noting that 5 or 6 years ago, I was taking more than I am now. I used to, like hit people up more and stuff for the extra pills and such than I do nowadays. And I'd want to stay up, so I keep taking more, but it has diminishing returns. So it's like what gets you pretty thwacked out the day one doesn't get you anything but functional day 5 or 6. So you kind of got to manage that. There's this constant management between amount of sleep you get and quality sleep you get and the amount of impact from the drugs. And you're best served if you can kind of feel it out and take a break a day or two here, but I just never really seem to. Rachel occasionally takes 1 or 2 of them, but usually just one.
Occasional, yeah.
And it's something that, like, maybe if we're going to go do something,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, even on days where we don't have anything to do.
when she feels
just,
like it.
Yeah, when, I, when I feel like it.
And it's like, I don't really, it used to be that I was pretty stingy with my addies, but these days I really, by the time I'm even pretty close to being done with the bottle, I'm ready to go on sleepy week. It's hard on your system. It's hard on my soul too, in a way, because I'm trying to keep everything together. I'm trying not to go into what Jessica calls quicksand. So thwackage quicksand refers to, you wake up, you have no idea what you're going to do, you find yourself doing something, and then it's 3 in the afternoon and you're halfway through this weird project that you never envisioned until you started it. And you go, what am I doing? That's quicksand. I'm increasingly able to avoid the quicksand aspect of things. But as far as the cognitive function end of things goes, it's the same as it's always been. Its extroverted sensing gets kicked more into gear to manifest my extroverted intuition in ways that are designed to resonate in favor of my extroverted feeling. In other words, I can sit here by myself all day and think of these ideas, but until I make this video, I have no chance of getting any extroverted feeling thumbs ups or good talk, Eric, or any kind of comments like that. So I have to do the parts that I have to do, make these little things, make the video, start to set it up, put on the hat, blah blah blah, and then that's what's enabled mostly by the Adderall, is the extroverted sensing part. The problem is when your extroverted sensing starts doing some random any idea where there's no superego guy, there's no driver behind the thing making a decision about how the day should be spent. That's too much of an SI consideration. You're just in full blast SENE mode, NI mode, and there you go, off and running,
Yeah.
So how to avoid quicksand? Don't take too much. You gotta kind of manage your dosage. It's pretty easy to get carried away with it when you think like a lot of times you'll feel this lull where you're not really thwacked out, but the problem is you need to eat and or nap. If you do either of those things, when you wake up and or eat, you'll feel re-thwacked without having to take any more. If you take more and then you eat, and then you feel like double thwacked, so don't do that. Some advice from an old head. Any last thoughts, Rachel?
No, I think that's pretty much covers it.
Thanks for the question, Jessica. Hopefully this is interesting content to people.